You're lying on your bed at night, staring at the ceiling as shadows shift across the walls. The day has drained you, leaving your body heavy, but it's your soul that feels the deepest exhaustion, the kind that hums quietly beneath your ribs. You've done your best to move through the world with kindness. You step out each day carrying a quiet golden light, hoping it will make things better, more human. But the world, often it responds with passive dismissal, or that subtle, hollow smile people give before they take more than you can afford to give. Every time you're kind and gentle, people see it as weakness. And so you lie there late at night, wondering, is it possible to stay kind in this world without being devoured by it? Picture this. You're hanging out with a group where everyone smiles to each other's faces, but the moment someone leaves, they start talking behind their back. Conversations feel like they're layered, with hidden meanings and quiet power plays that you're expected to navigate. And who counts as a friend? Well, that depends on where you stand in the social ladder. But you're simple, you're direct and kind to everyone, without caring who's important and who isn't. And that's when you notice something strange. Your honesty bothers people more than everyone else's lies ever do. Friends whisper that you're too innocent, or that you just don't get how the world works. But why is it that your integrity is treated like a flaw? Why does goodness feel like a curse? You see it everywhere, like that friend who's too nice and becomes everyone's emotional dumping ground, or the partner who keeps forgiving and letting things slide until they feel invisible. That office colleague who's always overworked because they never set boundaries. The eldest child in a toxic family who becomes the peacemaker, growing up with anxiety and mental health issues. Each sacrifices themselves on the altar of being good in a world that rarely gives back. They become resentful, tired, and disillusioned. Nietzsche argued that goodness without strength becomes victimhood. The good themselves have to be dangerous, for they exist only in a world that is dangerous. Because when you're soft in a harsh world, it doesn't always mirror your kindness. It often sees it as an opportunity, and it gets worse. The systems we live in, workplaces, families, social circles, often reward those who know how to manipulate perception, speak the loudest, and demand space. Meanwhile, the good people, the quiet, patient, non-confrontational types, they get sidelined, overlooked, and used. And so you see something twisted. Those who refuse to be stepped on get labeled arrogant or difficult, while those who manipulate quietly with fake smiles get praised as good citizens. Just think about growing up in a family or culture where ambition is shamed, so you learn to clip your own wings, to apologize for wanting more. You learn to feel guilty for dreaming. This is how people end up at 40, still apologizing for being intelligent, hiding their talents, pretending not to notice the obvious just to avoid making others uncomfortable. Calling this kindness when it's really fear in disguise, and this results in a quiet betrayal of yourself, shrinking your light, so others won't feel small. The world doesn't get better when you diminish yourself to fit in. It feeds a system that thrives on extraordinary people feeling guilty for being extraordinary. Nietzsche saw this pattern clearly, and he had a word for the system that traps good people in quiet suffering. Nietzsche called this slave morality, the morality of those who feel small and powerless, who resent strength and ambition, who believe suffering is noble and constant self-sacrifice is saintly. Look around and you'll see people who wear their exhaustion like a badge of honor. They're always tired, always overwhelmed, always taking pride in how much they can endure. Society calls them saints, but look into their eyes. Are they fulfilled, or are they trapped in a cycle where they only feel valuable when they're suffering. Here's the harsh truth if this sounds like you. You are not truly good, you are compliant. A lot of what we call goodness is just hidden resentment. It's the person who puts down others who have succeeded in life, or makes fun of people who are happy, or judges anyone who dares to live differently. It's the bitterness of someone who gave up on their own dreams and now needs to believe that dreaming is a crime. These people will try to make you feel guilty for wanting more, for refusing crumbs, for daring to be happy. Because if you fly, they feel small for crawling. If you're joyful, they feel inadequate for their misery. Their goodness is toxic because it springs from resentment, not love. Many good people secretly despise themselves for being unable to say no, for letting people walk over them, for being the emotional sponge in every relationship. There's a special loneliness for those who refuse to join the collective dance of falseness. Maybe you know it, being at a party where everyone is tearing down someone who isn't there and you can't find it funny. Working in a place where scamming customers is normal and you feel sick participating. Being in a family where humiliating each other is tradition and you can't join the game. People call you boring, uptight, too serious, saying you should lighten up. But deep down, you know that lightening up would mean losing a piece of your soul, becoming an accomplice to something you know is wrong. This loneliness forces you to know yourself without masks, without the applause, without constant validation. You learn to trust your own judgment and find peace in your own company. And gradually you start noticing that people feel safe around you. They open up about their lives easily, often without knowing why, because you're consistent. You don't switch masks just to fit in. Some people speak sweetly, but their kindness is just a way to get what they want. They've learned that looking good opens doors in ways real goodness doesn't. That fake humility impresses people more than honesty. That crying at the right moment gets more attention than telling the truth. In a world like this, real kindness looks naive. People without hidden agendas are seen as people who don't understand how things work. But what happens to those who insist on maintaining purity in a contaminated world? Nature often leaves them two tragic options. Either they get devoured like fragile spirits, or they rise so high above the dirt that they lose touch with humanity. You've seen them, those too good for this world, who trust everyone even when red flags are waving, who keep seeing the best in others, even when it's undeserved. They preserve their purity, but the cost is brutal. Repeated betrayals, confusion, and deep wounds. Others retreat completely to protect their purity, isolating themselves from the world, becoming untouchable hermits. They keep their goodness but lose connection. Nietzsche would say we need to become warrior sages. We need to know the evil of the world without letting it infect us, to fight when necessary but prefer to walk among wolves without becoming one. To survive, many good people feel they must become cold, harsh, and selfish. But here's the paradox. When you suppress your kindness to survive in a rotten world, you lose the best parts of yourself. You become the very thing that hurt you. But is there another way? Maybe you've survived betrayals that should have made you bitter, but something inside you still believes. Like a gardener, planting seeds in cracked concrete, or a painter, adding color to a war-torn wall. You keep preserving human dignity in its purest form. You defend yourself with quiet precision, assert your boundaries firmly, and protect your peace wisely. Not out of duty, but out of love. Here's what Nietzsche meant when he said, "Become who you are." It does not mean abandoning your goodness. It means transforming your goodness into strength, because softness without boundaries becomes victimhood. Softness with boundaries becomes power. Your kindness is needed in this world, but it needs to be coupled with the strength to say, "No, this is unacceptable. I will walk away if my kindness is abused." When you protect your kindness, you are not letting the rotten world steal it from you. And when you do this, you quietly fulfill your mission. People feel uplifted around you without even knowing why. Your presence leaves a subtle trail of peace and hope. You realize your mission isn't to save the entire world, but to create small pockets of paradise on earth. Not to convert all of humanity, but to live as proof that authentic goodness is still possible. And if this spoke to you, subscribe. Let's keep building a community of hope and authenticity together.